It's Miami. It's Syracuse at Hard Rock Stadium this Saturday, and suddenly for the Orange, they might be a formidable opponent for the Canes. We'll have to see if the Orange win over Clemson was a fluke or if they can somehow sustain something against another top-notch team. We bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U. Please join him right there for the best in Miami football coverage. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Feeling good, feeling strong, and supporting my Hurricanes. I'm wearing my throwback Roscoe Parrish #1 jersey, because we're going to wear green this week against the Syracuse Orange. So I figured for the podcast that I wear green as well. I'm feeling festive and everything, and just ready to talk some undefeated, the only undefeated ACC team, by the way, talk about some undefeated Miami Hurricanes football.
That is correct. I'm just happy that I guess the dates on Roscoe Parrish's stay at Miami, and I'm right there. I'm very close. So Roscoe Parrish. More recently, Mark Walton. It's #1 at Miami, and the Canes hoping to be #1 in the ACC and beyond. And for right now, like you say, they're right there. So Georgia Tech, that could also represent a 1-point win over Georgia Tech. They came in very ready to play and had a 2-score lead late in the game, around 8 to 10 minutes left to play, and Miami closed. They just simply closed in that game, got the defensive stops, and that's not an easy situation in which you're going up against Georgia Tech with this 2-score deficit because, of course, they hang on to the football. So you had to play a near-perfect fourth quarter to get it done, and you did.
Yeah, and it goes back into the third quarter as well. That's when we scored our second touchdown of the game. It was in the fourth quarter, excuse me. So second quarter and fourth quarter both going to the west end zone towards the press box. So it was coming directly towards where I was sitting there. Travis Homer caught a wheel route in the second quarter. He also had a run in the fourth quarter for the touchdowns. But, yeah, man, the team just did what we had to do. And, I mean, these are the last 2 weeks. I know it's not been blowouts like it was against Duke or, Toledo or anything like that. But the rules of the game of football say that you need to win by 1 point or anything more than that. And we did enough to get that 1-point win last week. Now, you second touchdown and don't get it. So you're chasing those 2 points right there. It could have been 27-24, a tie game. 24 going into the last drive. So then we got a field goal to win by 3. Onside kick that was it was almost executed right, but it didn't go far enough. And then everybody just kind of sat around and watched. And then Georgia Tech was like, oh, I'll take that and score. And, I mean, that looked like it was going to be a backbreaker. Honest story, I was talking to a friend of mine, JT Wilcox from footballhotbed.com, and we were getting food at halftime. And I was not even back in my seat for the kickoff. And I came in, and I see Georgia Tech celebrating. And I looked around to all the other people sitting around me, and I was like, wait, is this for real? But that was the only offense they really got in the second half, Georgia Tech. The defense really clamped them down, held them to 3 points on offense. It was very few yards of total offense, very few yards rushing. The quarterback, Taquan Marshall, who had been just perfect on the year, had 19 carries for 18 yards in the entire game against Miami. So, the big thing was stopping the QB run game was huge. They were getting us with that rocket sweep where it was basically like the orbit motion and that quick. And I talked about that last week, how they're going to do that kind of thing. The first 3 plays, I saw a guy who charged plays say the first 3 times they ran that, it was like 8 yards, 40 yards, and like 12 yards. And then the next 5 times they ran it, it was like 8 total yards. So defense made adjustments and kept getting off the field, just 3 and out after 3 and out. And, we did give up like 1 fourth down conversion where Paul Johnson pulled a Paul Johnson in the fourth quarter, which is line up, have everybody motion, try to draw you off sides, call a timeout, and usually punt. But he came back on 4th and 1 and was like, no, we're going to go for it. And then they got it with a QB sneak. But other than that, that was really all the defense gave up. Michael Jackson, not the famous singer, but number 28 on our team, had a huge pass breakup on Georgia Tech's last 3rd down. It was like a 3rd and 8. Tried to hit a square in across the middle, and you see the wide receiver trying to catch the ball, and he just raked his hands in there, and he's doing all of this kind of stuff, and he got that ball out of there, which gave the offense back the ball for that last drive. So, it was a tough game, definitely. It's always tough to play that team playing that flex bone. And I spoke about this last week about going from Florida State playing a traditional offense to Georgia Tech playing a flex bone to Syracuse running the up-tempo Baylor type spread this week. And yeah, I mean, it was a challenge. It definitely was. There were some mistakes. There were some penalties that took big plays off the board for Miami, but, by any means necessary, that's just kind of what it is. And, Mark Richt even said this week, like, we're not a great team, and we're not, but we're fighting all the way to the end. And that's the kind of thing that you didn't see with an Al Golden team. Al Golden's team would have lost both of the last 2 weeks easily and been definitely a home underdog or, kind of even going into this week with Syracuse. But yeah, just when I did a question and answer with the SB Nation Syracuse blog this week, they asked me, said, what is going on these last 2 weeks, just like you did? And I said it was perseverance, which, you don't give up at all. You have faith that you can come back, and you execute in those times that you have to. And it seems simple, but Miami has lost that initiative edge to have perseverance. They've had the kind of, oh man, this again mentality, and just a lack of execution when times necessitated that things were really good. But this year, these last 2 weeks against Florida State and Georgia Tech, we're seeing a lot of that. And obviously that's how we still have a 0 in the loss column. But, this team I think is good. And, hopefully after this week's game, when we beat Syracuse, we'll be officially bowl eligible. But, it just took a lot of stick-to-itiveness really to get these last 2 wins. But I like what I'm seeing.
Love talking Miami football with Cam Underwood. We track him down just as much as we possibly can to talk up the Canes with a big game against Syracuse at home this Saturday, 3:30, national TV audience in store. Cam, of course, with the State of the U. Please join him right there for the best in Miami football coverage. Syracuse football coverage as well, just this week. But Miami all the time, Miami sports all the time, and, of course, football is king, especially in the fall. And Miami sitting pretty at 5-0. So you bring up Syracuse. Did you gain anything from the insight and the conversation that you had with Noon's Magician?
Yeah, the official name of that website is Troy Nunes is an Absolute Magician. So the longest name in blogging, I guess. But they gave their managing editor, John Casillo, just gave us a great question and answer about them. So learned a little bit about their team and their players and, what they've been through and everything. So, we've all seen the conversation Dino Babers had about how when he took the job, he claimed that he was going to beat a top 3 team, which he last week did, his team. And it's kind of the polar opposite from Al Golden in that, if you remember that Cincinnati game when Al Golden famously said, don't rise to the occasion, blah, blah. Dino Babers said, no, this is a huge moment. Like, treat it like it's a big moment and go and win this moment. But it's a monumental kind of a thing. And they went out there and they did that. So interesting to see the kind of different personality there. But, yeah, just talking to them about Syracuse. Syracuse likes to play fast. Obviously, that's one of their calling cards. But Miami's faced teams that want to play fast. We gave up 85 plays to Toledo and beat them by 3 touchdowns. 6 days later on a short week, Duke had 88 plays. And we know what we did to them. We beat them by 4 touchdowns. So this is not the first time that we're seeing somebody try to push tempo, and I think that, Miami, we don't have an indoor practice facility yet. So with the exception of the week after Hurricane Irma, when we finally came back against Toledo, these kids practice outside in 85-degree heat with 93% humidity, even to this point of October. So, I think that Miami is in good enough condition, and that's a huge thing to be able to combat Syracuse, because you have to line up quick. You have to kind of simplify the schemes a little bit, I think. And, the mental tempo also has to be key, because it's a different thing when if you remember Miami years ago, well, again, when Al Golden was the coach, we would go to line and say, hut, hut, and then look at the sideline and get the signals. Syracuse is getting the line most times, hut and go. So you really got to be engaged mentally and know if you're doing something different or what your assignments are. So there's things like that. Our resident coach, Justin Tatavio, on State of the U is one of the best in the business with his X's and O's breakdowns. Really, really doing a great job. So he looked at some of the Syracuse plays and things that they like to do from empty sets with 10 personnel with a couple of different things, diagrammed it out, has beautiful videos in these posts. You really need to get it. We call them clinic talk when he talks about the X's and O's. So he did some great stuff. And it's so good that even some Syracuse fans who found us through our question and answer with News Magician, they linked to his piece and said, whoa, this is awesome. And I learned something about my team's offense by reading the Miami site. So between the question and answer, between all the preview stuff that we've done, both narrative things, talking about Miami actually building a winning persona as a team, and the actual analysis, analytical things, talking about these are the numbers and these are the X's and O's. I think that we've given pretty good content, about Syracuse this week. I've learned a lot, obviously, looking into them, because the last time we played them was 2003, 4, something like that. I was an undergrad back the last time that we played, so it's been a while. So I did have to dig in and do a little research, but I think between all the stuff that we've offered and reaching out to News Magician, we've had some good stuff. So be sure that you check it out. And I know it sounds like I'm just plugging the website, but really, honestly and truly, we have some great stuff for you to learn about Miami, Syracuse on both sides of the aisle. So go check it out, man.
That was back in the old Big East days. Miami beat Syracuse 17-10 in 2003, and that was a pretty good Miami team.
Yeah, we did that. And also in 2001 and 2, we had some blowout wins. Had a blowout loss in 1999, which was Donovan McNabb's senior year. His senior day game, actually, his last home game at the Carrier Dome. So that's something I wrote about in the question and answer as well. So, yeah, I mean, we used to play Syracuse every year when we were in the Big East. We were wearing these jerseys because I don't have an insignia, but these are Big East jerseys that I'm wearing now. But, yeah, we moved on to the ACC, and we play each other, once every decade, give or take. So it's a good little time, but, I think that we'll just kind of play this game on Saturday, get a proper result for the University of Miami and just move on forward.
Syracuse was last ranked in 2001, Cam. That's my stat for the night for you. And when I say 2001, I don't mean in the final poll, the final official poll at the end of the season. I mean in any week. Somebody laid that one on me this week that Syracuse was last ranked in 2001. And I told them I'm almost positive in stating as a counterpoint to that there is no other school in the Power 5 that can make that claim that has not been ranked at all. Maybe Iowa State. They do come to mind. Kansas ranked in the top 5 in the country in 2007. So throw them out. I know Kansas comes to mind immediately. Purdue's been good since then. Anybody. Illinois went to the Rose Bowl in 2007. Any bad program you can throw out there, I'm almost going to guarantee that they've been in the top 25 at least 1 week in 16 years. Not Syracuse. That is crazy.
Wow. And for a school with that kind of history, you're talking
Jim Brown
and Ernie Davis and all kinds of people. Where Donovan McNabb, like we talked about, Rob Conrad, who wore the number 44 back then. Dwight Freeney back in 2001 and 2 and got shut out by Brian McKinney when he was going for the sack record. Keith Bullock, who played in the league for years with Tennessee and with my Detroit Lions. All kinds of good players there, but man, not even a single week in 16 years. Well, that is an interesting stat, and hopefully for Miami's sake, we're able to elongate that or continue that for Syracuse, because if Syracuse were to beat Miami, which I do not think is going to happen, but if they were, they're at 5-3, having beaten number 2 and number 8 in back-to-back weeks. It's hard to not get votes or not get to the top 25 when you have that recent resume, and Miami's played 2 national TV games back-to-back. Clemson was Clemson with, obviously, defending national champions and looking like they were going straight back to the playoff undefeated. Even though I know that Clemson lost last year, but it seemed as though they were going to go undefeated through the regular season this year. Man, yeah, this week could be, if what I don't think is going to happen happens, the week that Syracuse breaks that streak. But again, for Miami's sake, I hope that Syracuse goes yet another week without a ranking.
I can't guarantee it, but Syracuse would probably break into the Mark Rogers TV top 25 because we present, of course, the more common sense, reasonable top 25 that actually makes sense. It's not based on perception or what we think the teams are going to do at the end of the season. It's based on the track record. So even if 5-3, Clemson and Miami in the win column probably would break into the top 25, but I don't think that's going to happen either. So you did a nice job of breaking down the goal of Dino Babers to run the 100 plays, in which they failed to do last week, but that was a good thing because they had a touchdown lead in the fourth quarter and they slowed it down and showed the ability to actually be able to grind the clock a little bit in preserving that one-score lead against Clemson to pull off the upset. But that's what they're typically trying to do. and run, let's see, 114 pass plays of over 10 yards per play. That's one of the top 3 stats in that category in the nation. Do you have concerns about the Canes in the secondary against a passing attack that has 2 receivers? Okay, we're exactly halfway through the season. Steve Ishmael, 62 catches. Irvin Phillips has 56. They could have 2 100-catch guys.
Yeah, I think that there is obviously some cause for concern for Miami. D. Delaney, the redshirt senior grad transfer, is out again this week. So he's not, and he was a starting cornerback. So I know he had rough performances those first 2 weeks, and I lambasted him on this very platform. But his last 2 games that he played very well. But he missed last week's game. He's out again this week with a leg injury. Sheldrick Redwine, who missed last week with, I believe it was concussion syndrome or symptoms after sustaining injury against Florida State. He's not listed on the injury report this week, so he should be back. So, you have Malik Young and Jaquan Johnson and Sheldrick Redwine, so 3 or 4 starting defensive backs. Michael Jackson, who I said basically had a game-saving play against Georgia Tech, because if they complete that ball, we probably don't get, Miami does not get the ball back. So he'll probably play a lot. Trajan Bandy, your freshman nickel back, cornerback, he's 5'9"-ish. So he'll probably play a lot. And yeah, hopefully things are more settled this week. The big problem in the secondary has been Robert Knowles, and I hate to single players out for their performance, but he's just flat been bad. Subbing in for Redwine at free safety. He had 2 coverage breakdowns against Florida State. Both of them went for touchdowns. He had a coverage breakdown last week against Georgia Tech on a play-action play when there's only 1 receiver in a route, and that receiver got behind him for a 48-yard gain on 3rd and 8. So he made tackles in the run game, obviously, last week. He did some good things, but in pass coverage, there's much to be desired from number 20. So getting Redwine back is big. Obviously, you're going to rotate those guys, so you might see a Javonte Dean, our JUCO junior transfer. You might see, I don't even know who else, maybe an Amari Carter finally getting some burn, maybe Romeo Finley at safety getting some burn. But, yeah, I want to see that the other cornerback slot, the one that D. Delaney is vacated by injury, I want to see that that's kind of good and strong because we're going to need it. And that's really going to be the key for the secondary to lock down. Now, on the flip side, Miami's defensive line is one of the top 3 in America. And I believe the defensive line can go toe-to-toe with Clemson. Now, if you're going player by player, yeah, I'm probably going to take more players on the Clemson defensive line. But as I said on Twitter today, Miami goes a legit 10 deep, and you can even make a conversation for them going 12 deep with 3 complete defensive lines who have players that make plays. And the starting defensive line is as good as any in America, and I'll put that up against anybody. Second-team defensive line, you got guys like, trusty Trent Harris, number 33, Demetrius Jackson, who plays outside and inside on some pass rushing things. So you'll see a mix and match. Even with Jackson and Chad Thomas, the starting end, they move inside. Then you put the speed guys on the outside and just let them go get after it. I think that's going to help the defensive backfield because we're going to get upfield. We're going to blitz a little bit, obviously, from the linebacker slot also. And it's going to be tough for Syracuse to block our defensive line. Period. And if we can, in the defensive backfield, make Eric Dungy hold the ball even a little bit, then the defensive line is just going to eat. Like Joe Jackson, you can't block him. R.J. McIntosh, Kendrick Norton, Chad Thomas, Trent Harris, Demetrius Jackson, Pat Bethel, Jonathan Ford, Jonathan Darvin even getting snaps. Anthony Moten, redshirt senior, back in the middle also. We got guys. And I know they want to play fast, but we've done well against teams who want to play fast because that second string line or whoever is there and ready to go. So even after completion, they're coming straight off the field. The new line is going to where the new ball set is, and we're going to go. So I think that that's going to be a thing. And I said this before the season, that the front of Miami, the down linemen, those 4 up front, getting pressure without blitzing or adding extra pressure by blitzing. Guys like Michael Pinckney, who's a great blitzer, Shaq Quarterman, who's a good blitzer but not as good as 56. You do that, then the defensive backs don't have to cover for 5 seconds. So I think that some of that might help them as well. So obviously the players in the secondary have to step up because we won't get there on every play. I mean, to think that is like you're playing NCAA football on your old PS3 on freshman setting. Like, you're not going to get home every play. But yeah, I think that the defensive line is going to help out the secondary. But yeah, until I see it, I don't want to see any breakdowns and things, because even Clemson had the one with the seam route, which was used in one of the videos that our guy Justin Tatavio did on our website, when they threw him the ball, Irvin Phillips, one of their leading receivers, and there was nobody on that side of the 50 but him, because everybody went to the curl routes. He goes to seam, throw the seam, boom, you're gone. So yeah, obviously you want to see your secondary play well against a team, because they're going to throw the ball 50, 60 times, which means that's 50 and 60 times you got to pass rush. You got to cover. Is it man? Is it zone? Is it cover 1, 3? Is it quarters? What is the coverage? So you want to see those things not break down. But, between hopefully guys stepping up in the secondary and the defensive line dominating the line of scrimmage, which I expect, I think we'll be okay.
It's Syracuse at Miami this Saturday. We've got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. Please join him there for the very best in Miami football coverage, and kind of taking this Syracuse upset theme that we talked about a few minutes ago is just running through my mind, that if Syracuse would win this game, they got the win against Clemson. They only have one loss in the ACC. Mathematically, they play themselves into contention. Nobody sees it happening. I will bring this up. If we flip to the other side of the ball, the third down conversion rate for the Syracuse defense, to me, when I came across this number, I was shocked, because I knew that Dino Babers had upped the ante on offense and his what we could call a gimmick offense, but when it starts to work, it's less gimmick and more about execution. That's working, and that's the theme, and that's what he's known for in his calling card, but he's obviously improved things. And the defensive staff on the other side of the ball, Syracuse has been atrocious on defense forever, for the most part, and they are top 3 in the nation in third down conversion rate at 23%. And if you think, okay, they stack the stats against the bad teams, Central Connecticut, etc. No, against the Power 5, they're in the top 3 or 4 in the country. Clemson went 2 for 11 on third down. Pitt went 3 for 13 the last 2 weeks. Flip side, Miami, you're struggling converting on third downs. Now, fortunately, you've hit on enough big plays that third down hasn't been crucial, but on the 58 tries, you're 97th in the nation in third down conversions. What's not happening there?
I think that a lot of those missed third downs are coming in first halves, when the offense has been just kind of bad for Miami. So we're converting more in the second half as Malik Rozier and Mark Richt, as a play caller, kind of heat up and do things a little bit better. Yeah, it has been a struggle. Went 4 for 8 on third down against Bethune, but you expect that kind of thing. Only 8 third downs. 3 for 9 against Toledo. Again, only 9 third downs, but a third of those. Only a third the next week against Duke. 4 for 12, but that's like double what Duke was allowing, because they were allowing like 12% on third down or something like that. And our best third down day actually was at Florida State, 7 out of 17 for 42%, basically. And then last week we slid back to going only 2 for 12 against Georgia Tech on third down. So tallies in the third down performance. Obviously, penalties on third down are huge, because a couple conversions have been wiped out because of those penalties. And then the subsequent play that counts to the stats has been missed or not converted. So hopefully, not having those crucial kind of errors, also having manageable third downs, because when you get predictable in the play call game, inside run, play action passes incomplete. Now you're 3rd and 10, and teams are going to, they're going to pin their ears back to rush the passer, and they're going to play, kind of that sticks coverage where you can get something in front of us, but we're going to put our heels at 10 and make you get in front of us and maybe break a tackle or two to get that first down. So, schematically and situationally, things have been a little bit of a struggle, but, hopefully if we're in manageable situations, Miami will be able to convert maybe a little bit more, or have that similar kind of performance that we did at Florida State, 42%, getting close to 50% on conversions, because you're only 2 away from 50 if you're 9 out of 17. Yeah, that'd be over. So you're right there with it, basically. Yeah, so, I think that has been what the issues have been there. Also, maybe not playing the right personnel all of the time. Darrell Langham was on the bench for the majority of the season, including last week. He started on the bench, I believe, before coming in. And then in the Florida State game, he famously only played the last 2 plays of the game. Now, of course, on the very last play, he caught the game-winning touchdown. But what have you been doing for the rest of the game? Just staying ready on the sideline with my helmet, like, hey, coach, put me in. So maybe he gets on the field a little bit more often. Maybe Amon Richards, who comes back from a hamstring, is a little bit more healthy. Maybe Miami doesn't throw jump balls in the end zone to Mike Harley, who I love as a wide receiver, but he's 5'9.5", 5'10". You know, maybe some of those choices change on personnel usage and then also the scheme usage of those personnel that are on the field. So hopefully those things will be a little bit better. And yeah, I think that, Syracuse is doing very well to limit teams on third down, obviously, this year, all the way throughout. But just like last week, I think that their luck runs out on that. I don't think this is 6 games into the season for them. And I don't think it's necessarily sustainable. And that performance that they had last week against Clemson was a milestone performance for me. That was a pinnacle, an apex. And I just don't think that they're going to be able to do that again. Whether that's overall as a team, whether that's on the score, I don't definitely think they're going to win or things like that. I think that they're going to have some kind of regression because you can't be, unless you're an Alabama or 2001 Miami or insert championship level team here, you're pretty much going to be at that level all the time. You're not going to stumble. You're not going to lose to a Middle Tennessee, those kind of things. It's not going to be that wide of a variance in your performance. So I think that, yeah, they had some lows and they had some highs, but when they get back to who they really are in the middle, I think that Miami might be a little bit more successful on third down and then overall in this game as well.
Ken, when you mention Langham, I just have to laugh because here's a guy that played 2 plays, as you mentioned, against Florida State, and he has basically made the 2 most important plays of the season. Of course, the touchdown grab to beat Florida State, and then the play that converts the 4th down against Georgia Tech. Call him lucky, call him whatever. When the ball was in the air, he made the grab. It's just funny that and with the personnel that I know in Miami from our discussions and from watching the 5 or 6 games that I do each year, I was scratching my head when they found him against Florida State. I was like, I don't know that I know who that is. And this guy's beating Florida State, and then he comes back against Georgia Tech and makes the biggest play of the game too.
Yeah, no, he's stepping up in big moments and had 6 catches for 100 last week, was co-ACC receiver of the week for that performance and that highlight reel catch, which I know everybody saw. And credit to one of our contributors at State of the U, Matt Washington, good friend of mine. He called Darrell Langham as his breakout player this season in our preseason roundtable discussion. And truth be told, he sent me that response on email, and I laughed. Because we play, video games together. So I got on the party chat on PlayStation 4 that are over here, and I said, yo, get on this party chat right now so I can laugh in your face. And I'm the one who he's laughing at now. Like, I'm on the receiving end of the derision. Like, every time we talk, he goes, hey, bro, Darrell Langham. And I'm like, you called it. Like, and you go back and look on the website. I guarantee you it's preseason question and answer. I think it's part 1 where he said that. But out of everybody, he said, no, Darrell Langham is that guy. I've heard practice reports. I've read some stuff. He's going to come out strong this season. He's going to be our big receiver who makes plays. And I didn't believe it. And both, and Darrell Langham was just proving me wrong. And I enjoyed that. Like, I like this kid, obviously. He's a redshirt junior, so he redshirted and then was slower on his progression than some others, but, had confidence in himself and kept persevering and progressing. And when they called his number at a time that, you wouldn't otherwise think out of all of, the new receivers on the team and Amon Richards and all these kind of things, they called 81's number, and 81 was making plays, bro. So, it was kind of a thing where he, for the first time, really asserted himself into the minds and consciousness of Hurricanes fans. But I mean, yeah, man, he's a legend from here on out for both of those last 2 catches against Florida State and against Georgia Tech. So I'll take it.
Miami hosts Syracuse coming up on Saturday. Cam Underwood from State of the U joining us. I got to ask you about Travis Homer before we let you go. If you just look at the numbers, look at the performance in the running game, it looks like he replaced Mark Walton adequately. Is it as simple as he replaced Walton? As long as Homer doesn't get hurt, he's replaced and we're good to go there. Trayon Gray only got 2 carries. Maybe he should get more, or somebody should get more, I would think, in supplementing and complementing Travis Homer going forward. But we don't see the pass protection. And, of course, Walton is one of the best running backs I know of in college football coming in out of the backfield in the passing game. So something has to still be lost there, but your evaluation of Travis Homer.
Yeah, I think that Homer is good, man. You know, he was a 4-star recruit coming out of West Palm Beach Oxbridge Academy. He had multiple 80 and 90-yard touchdowns in high school. I had to put his high school highlights back on the timeline because people are like, oh, where did this kid come from? I'm like, we've been here. Like I said, he was the best running back in the state of Florida 2 years ago over Amir Rasul, who's at Florida State, and anybody else. Devin Singletary, who's at Florida Atlantic, who was one of the leading rushers in Palm Beach County at their American Heritage up there in Delray. I said, this kid is better, and people were not necessarily believing me about that, and I've been proven to be right. So, you know, yeah, he's a guy who can be and is now the centerpiece of the offense. It was different for him because he played the entire game. So even he spoke about this at practice this week, talking about, yeah, he got a little winded and everything because when you're the change of pace, it's like being the closer on a baseball team. That means I can throw full velocity. I can go. If I can hit 103, I'm throwing 103 all day because I'm only going to throw 33 pitches maybe and be out of there. But if you're a starting pitcher, you know, and look at John Smoltz when he closed after he had his injury and he went back, he's like, yo, instead of sitting at 97, 98 for an inning, I'm going to be 93, 94 for 7, 8 innings now. So it's that kind of different thing where, you know, he's going super hard and had to take a couple plays off because he got a little winded. And I get that because obviously you're going to go as hard as you can all the time. But when you have limited snaps, you're going to give that little extra if you have it. So he was dealing with that, but he's a true running back. He's got good skills. You know, we went to a little bit of this buck sweep action with you pull 2 guards to the side. Which is a thing that we had done in the Travis Homer package, if you will, all season long. Again, Justin DeTavio on our website, he wrote about this in the summer, talking about the additions to the run game and things he would like to see from Mark Richt, and that was one of the things. And Homer runs it really well. So we're doing the buck sweep more. We're doing the inside zone. We're doing zone read, obviously, with Malik Rozier. And I think that the QB run game is really going to be the key for Miami to balance the offense. And in the last 3 weeks, Malik Rozier's had 15, 14, and 11 carries respectively. So even with Mark Walton there, he's been the second leading ball carrier. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a Trayon Gray. Now, Trayon is very athletic. If he gets a seam, even at 6'2", 235, he has a speed to take it the distance. So, I mean, maybe give him 5 carries, you know, if that's possible. DJ Dallas, an athlete in high school who played all over the place. He moved from wide receiver to running back. Maybe he gets in a little bit. Crispin Atkins, he got put on scholarship. He was a walk-on up until last week. Maybe he gets a carry or 2, depending on the score. But, yeah, I think the real keys are going to be Travis Homer staying healthy because he could be, you know, second team all ACC caliber. I think he's that kind of talent. I don't know he's going to get there. Well, actually, he's going to get there number-wise because he has better numbers than Cam Akers for Florida State on less carries and more touchdowns and more yards. Just want to throw it out there. But I think that Travis Homer is a very good running back who have started over half of the season. So he can be a second team all ACC kind of player. Trayon Gray, you get him 3 to 5 touches. And then Malik Rozier is going to get, you know, 8 to 15 carries, depending on how they do the QB run game, whether he pulls it on zone read, whether they call a counter or a naked bootleg where he just runs it. So I think those things will really balance it. We don't necessarily have to have too many more carries coming from the running back position, as it were. But as long as Malik is continuing to run and Travis Homer's averaging 8.5 yards a carry, I think we'll be all right.
Mark Rogers, TV Talking Miami Football. Subscribe to my YouTube channel where I break down college football myself, but also bring on the best bloggers and broadcasters in the industry like Cam Underwood here from State of the U to talk up the Canes and their quest to stay undefeated against the surprising Orange of Syracuse. Cam, we appreciate the time. Always enjoy the breakdown.
Yeah, it's always fun. So, you know, go Canes. If you're going to the game this week, guys, wear your green. If not, 3:30 on ESPN, I think, is your telecast nationwide. So you don't really have to look anywhere for the auxiliary streams or anything like that. So, you know, one of 8 undefeated teams left in America are your number 8 ranked Miami Hurricanes. So, you know, I hope that you watch, and I hope that you go to stateoftheu.com for all of our commentary analysis, and we'll see you next time.